Welcome to another episode of Impact Society. And I have a special guest, one of my greatest mentors, the guy I always talk about because I wouldn't be the guy who I am today if I didn't go through some of the training and things that went with him. And so I'm excited to have him on the podcast. We're going to be talking about mindset. We're going to be talking about his journey. And so get ready for this episode of Impact Society. Welcome to this episode of Impact Society, hailing from San Antonio, Texas. As you see the Alamo Dome behind me, we are here with my mentor from the real estate world, the real estate industry, a well-known coach, speaker in this industry, one of the top professionals in the real estate industry. And so I'm excited to introduce my guest today, Dayton Schrader. How you doing, sir?
I'm well, thank you. It's great to hear from you and
Yes,
great
sir.
to see you.
Hey, likewise. So we're going to give a little backstory about, so I spent years in real estate before I actually got on Dayton's team.
Right.
Dayton was actually coaching, I'm not going to say who it is, but he was coaching a guy, and I was actually in his, on his team.
Right.
And at the time, I used to look up and say, man, you got Dayton Schrader coaching you? Because I used to hear about your name in the industry. And then he'll be like, yeah, but I'm going to do it my way. But I'm hearing what he's saying. And I'm like, that's not being coachable at all.
No.
And then eventually I left his team because I didn't want to dilute my journey as well by following somebody who doesn't want to follow a lead. And then a couple of years later, after I left that team, I get a phone call. And, hey, this is Dayton Schrader. And I'm like, man, I know this. you sound exactly like you do on the radio, on all the CDs we used to listen to. And so when I got that phone call, I said, hey, I want to bring you in for an interview. Your name has been brought up a couple times, and I was, felt amazed about that. And I remember, you want to talk about the interview process and how when I came to you, there was a 7-interview process. And you said, so basically, and I came the first time at the end of the first interview, you gave me some money and told me I had to go buy a book. Do you remember?
Strengths Finders.
Strength Finders by Gallup. Mm-hmm. Talk about that, because you gave me money, and I said no.
Right.
I have money. And you're like, no, I need you to go buy this book with my money.
Right.
And so talk about that. That was the first time I've ever gone through an interview like that.
And it's worked out for me pretty well. And basically, it's a little bit of a test in that, hey, are you really interested in this job, or are you just going to roll your eyes and say, oh, this old man doesn't know what he's talking about? And so when I give people the money, and the book's $21 or $22, so I chip off $40, I got cash in my pocket, and I'll say, go buy this book and do the test. There's a very specific test at the end of the book, and I've had people never see them again, stuff the money in their pocket. I had people that blew it off for 3 or 4 or 5 weeks, and then called me back and said, it's too late now. You're not that motivated. I've had people that came back like you with the receipt and the change from that. I had people that went and said, well, I went to 4 stores and I couldn't find the book, but I bought it on Amazon or something like that. And so I thought, okay, good. You're making an effort. That's
right.
What I'm looking for right out of the gate. The reason the interview process is so long is I'm horrible at it, and I'm the sales guy. Oh, it's gonna be great. Oh, you're gonna love it. Oh, we're gonna have a blast. It's gonna be so much fun. I like you, and all that sort of. And so now I'm about the last person they talk to. They got to get past everybody else on the team.
Right.
Have lunch with the team, or 2 or 3 people on the team.
Right.
And anybody can say, "Yep, nope, no joy," and call it a day. And I go, okay, that's fine. I kind of like them, but if they're not going to fit, they're a little, could be more objective than I am sometimes.
Right.
And so it's served me well.
What a great filter, right? Because even in my business right now, I use filters to know, and I tell my agents when they're coming on, like, I'm going to send you through a phase of filters, and it's going to show me how dedicated you are, and I'm going to match your energy. If you don't show me that you're committed and ready to run, I'm not going to run with you.
If you don't have a barrier to entry, whatever it is, whether it's qualifying a client or somebody on your team or somebody in your life, I mean, there's got to be a little bit of a barrier to entry. You're not just
Right.
for everybody all the time because it's so diluted.
Was there a shift? Was there a coach? Was there somebody that like helped you look at real estate differently from not just a sales perspective of because 80% turnover ratio in real estate, right? 80% of agents do not renew their license. And so, you know, in your beginning of your business, you started in the 80s, right? If I remember correctly.
Right.
And so in the 80s, price point's different. I remember the story of you on Super Bowl Sunday, nobody wanted to show home, and you made your first sale, I think it was, right?
That was Super Bowl Sunday, 1982.
1982.
Nobody else wanted to work that day. I was a low man, and so yeah, and it was back then interest rates were 16% and going up. San Antonio was going to dry up and blow away, but I was too broke to go anywhere or do anything, so I had no skills. I'd flunked out of college, and so I had to find a way. And I hung in there and I did whatever I had to do until things started picking up, and I got a little bit smarter and I figured it out. And people were nice to me when I was a nobody, and I watched what they did and how they dressed and how they spoke and how they managed their files and the cars they drove and all those kinds of things. And I had the good fortune of being in a couple of good real estate offices with some high caliber people, and I just watched them and sponged up as much of that as I could. And I've always been a seminar junkie. I was a Tommy Hopkins guy and a Zig Ziglar guy back in the day, and so I was listening to tapes and role playing in the car, practicing scripts and dialogues and overcoming objections and things like that. So I'd be the guy you pull up next to me at the red light, and I'm sitting there talking to myself. This is before anything. And that was how I kind of kept going and going and going, and just had to hang in there long enough.
When was your like momentum taking off?
It was a series of things. One was in the late 80s. We'd got through the Tax Reform Act of 1986, the devaluation of the peso, and the oil crisis all rolled up into one, which just about wiped San Antonio out. But at that point, or real close to that point, HEB moved up here from Corpus Christi.
Okay.
And that was a big pop for them to relocate their corporate headquarters, which is actually not too far from here at the Arsenal. And so they moved up here, brought a bunch of great people. And then the next thing you know, we picked St. Louis's pocket, and here comes Southwestern Bell. And when Southwestern Bell came here, then they brought in AT&T and Pac Bell and Bell South and all that. So we made an incredible run with those people. And I didn't have the relo business, but I had the listings. And the people were coming in, they were calling on the signs and wanted to see the houses and things like that. So that kind of took off. And the next one was, I thought, well, I'm not doing great in real estate. This is in the 80s. I thought, well, I better go back to school just in case and get a degree. So I went to UTSA. So I thought, I could swing through that. And they laughed at me and and said, you got to. This is not a junior college. You need to go take care of your business. So I had to go to SAC for 2 years to make up for all my transgressions at A&M, and got back in there and got into UTSA, got an accounting degree.
Okay.
I had to promise my tax professor I'd never do any returns, and I promised my Spanish professor I'd never be a diplomat, but I managed to get through it, and proud UTSA alum. And so that was 93 is when I graduated. So that's 30 plus years ago. My daughter was born in 1995. That was probably one of the big ones.
Yeah.
That was all of a sudden, it was game on.
Sink your teeth in.
My wife had done real well. She was a pharmaceutical rep. She was making good money. My job was to make the house payment. Her job was her income was going to pay for all the incidentals and all that sort of thing. And so when she said, hey, guess what? Wow, we didn't think we were going to have a baby. And so that was a great blessing. And we had agreed that she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. And that's not for everybody, but it was something that was very important to her.
Right.
And I thought, okay, I will do whatever it takes to do. And that's the thing. I'm probably the most proud of all the stuff, all the plaques, all the other junk, doesn't care. The fact that my wife got to be on maternity leave for 26 years.
Right.
And raise our daughter, who I'm super proud of. That's, I think, the best thing I've done.
Yeah. I remember when I joined your team, and I still have the photo where we're in Santerre at the golf course at the 4th of July. And, and Malachi was probably maybe a year old.
Right.
Maybe going almost on 2. I think she might have been pregnant. And there's a picture of you and your wife holding Malachi as he's looking up at the fireworks, right?
They do. Our country club here, Sonterra Country Club, does a great 4th of July. And so they put everybody out on the driving range. You bring your blankets. They've got patriotic music playing, and the place is bumping, and food and all this kind of good stuff. And then here come the parachute guys, and that's a treat. And then a really good fireworks display. And sometimes we're lucky enough to where Cornerstone will have their own fireworks display. It's happened more than once where they do their fireworks, and so you get to look at that one, which is right next door, basically, right. And then you get to see ours, and so it's a treat.
Yeah, and I think that's what's inspired my wife more, to watch a successful couple being able to, each one's playing their role, and it just inspired us. And then you even told me one time too, like, you should live close to where you work. I mean, you could probably drive 5 minutes to work or less.
I live 1 minute inside the gate, and my office is 1 minute outside the gate. So I literally a 2-minute commute in the morning. Now, coming home, I may be coming home from an hour away.
Right.
But I start my day. I'm very spoiled. It's unbelievable.
Success habits. What, I know you have them. I mean, that's one of them. I used to hear you all the time making your phone calls, knocking out that greatness tracker. You're gonna do it. You always, and I kind of look at it as a joke, but you always downplay how smart you are. I look at you as a very, very articulate, very smart person. But in your language, it's more of like, you're just doing the basics. I'm just, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to just...
No, it's a commodity business. And so if something happened to me, the world would keep turning, houses would keep getting sold. There's nothing special about what I do. The trick's doing it 6, 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 times a month, month after month after month. Anybody can stick a sign in the ground and let 15,000 other realtors in San Antonio bring you an offer, and anybody can be an overpaid Uber driver.
Right.
Showing houses. You want this one? No. You want this one? No. You want this one? Yes. Oh, great. Let's go. And so, but the trick's doing it again and again and scaling it. Mm-hmm. And that's a choice, because that's not for everybody.
Right.
And it is a choice.
Right. Pareto's rule says 80% do 20% of the work, 20% do 80% of the work. Uh-huh. We're watching a market shift right now. There's more foreclosures than there was in 2008 already.
Right.
We're looking at a lot of these, 80% turnover ratio with realtors. They're not renewing their license.
Right.
They're not learning the skills. They're not getting enough momentum. And a lot of them are becoming bona fide Uber drivers. Mm-hmm. Right. How do they separate themselves?
Network and relationships and constant prospecting is the short answer. I mean, you just got to keep thumping away at it. And people say, well, how do I get more listings? I said, well, great. You can call FSBOs or expire for sale by owners or expireds, or which I wouldn't wish on anybody. Or,
it's treacherous.
Or you start helping people buy houses for about 15 years, and they'll start calling you back.
Right.
And so I hung in there long enough to where I get people calling me back saying, you don't remember us, but you helped us. And I think, yeah, I kind of remember you had a collie, and I may not know the name, but I'll kind of remember the story or the case study, if you will. And so we got that kind of that groundswell, and it just takes a while to get that flywheel going.
Right.
And some people could do it a lot faster than me. I'm slow and methodical and a plodder, but we managed to grow.
The two things I remember the most was be the mayor of your city.
Yeah.
Got to be the mayor of your city. You have to network. You have to talk to people. You have to be willing to. And then the second was the giver's gain, right? Like, try to find a way to serve them and be helpful to them. Because the goal is, accounts pyramid, right? The goal is to get these accounts, these group of people that are going to send you referrals where your business is. You just waking up knowing, I've got 10 guys who are going to send me 10 deals a piece. By the end of the year, I got 100 deals. That's my starting point every year.
Right.
How does an agent get there in their first 2 to 3 years? If you had to just take only your knowledge and possession, go back and start all over, what is a principle or foundation for you to gain those relationships for accounts?
You've got to have common values at the very least, and shared values, mm-hmm. and shared sacrifice is even better. The shared sacrifice is military, first responders. I mean, they really went through it together. But at the very least, shared values.
Shared values.
And once you make sure that you're aligned there, then positioning yourself as the go-to expert for anything they need. And so I do a lot of work with builders, and I do a lot of work with financial planners. And so I'm their extension of their practice. I want to represent them really well, take great care of their clients, and then and bring them back in one piece.
Right.
And I had that conversation over and over again. So last year, I had 188 people sent me 360 different deals that closed.
Nice.
And so been very blessed. And so I challenge my coaching students, hey, is there somebody in your orbit that sends you a deal or two a year? And they go, yeah, I got somebody, my friend, my buddy, a previous client, whatever it is. I say, great, if you got one, you can get two, right? Yeah, okay, two. You can get 5. Then you get 10. And it's a process. Right. And it takes time. And you got to be super intentional about it. And you got to keep every promise that you make, because otherwise you're useless.
Right.
And so being just driven on that sort of thing makes all the difference in the world.
I remember, for instance, being a Major City, you have to be the who do you know who guy, right? If you're the who do you know who guy, and they're going to call on you because you took care of their client, that is what's going to get you the business. And then I want to talk about this as well. It's the way that you love on your clients. It's the way that you love on your accounts. Everybody's loved on differently. You want to break that down as well?
Well, it is understanding what their love language. I mean, quite frankly. And then what their expectations are. And so we do a lot of stuff for our clients. We'll do movie events, and we'll do a Santa party. And I've done that now for almost 30 years at my home. And last year we had close to 300 people through the door. And so that's an ongoing, that's kind of kicks off the Christmas season. We'll do happy hours with different groups or constituencies. Play a little golf. I love to shoot skeet. And so we found you can play golf, but golf takes 5 or 6 hours. And if you're a really good host, it's every bit of 6 hours by the time you get there early and hit balls on the range and buy lunch and then have a drink afterwards and all that. It's a long day.
Right.
Where skeet, you're standing right next to each other the entire time. It takes about an hour and a half to shoot a couple of rounds and then sit down and have a drink, break bread, and then send everybody home.
Right.
And so we found that to be a lot more efficient, and we enjoy it. And I'm halfway decent, not the best, but halfway decent, so I can hold my own out there, and it makes it really fun.
Growing up, give me 1 to 2 things that you believe really shaped your viewpoint, really shaped your work ethic, really shaped your mindset, that made the Dayton Schrader that we know today?
My parents got a divorce when I was 3, so I got sent here to live. My sister's 1, I'm 3, and we got sent here to live with my grandparents.
Okay.
And they were empty nesters, had taken care of their business, put 2 kids through college, had done everything they were supposed to, and it was supposed to be their golden years to travel and wheels up, and they never made a lot of money, but they had back then didn't take a lot of money to do some fun things.
Right.
And they completely pivoted and remodeled the house, and the 1-car garage became my bedroom.
Okay.
And I watched my grandfather, who'd been in the Army, and he sold woodworking machinery and tools, sand belts and router bits and things like that. And he called on a lot of different shops here in San Antonio. Back then, HEB built their own cabinets, so we'd call on HEB and sell them whatever tools, get stuff repaired and things like that. So there were times where I'd spend the summer driving around with him and just watching. Here he was. He didn't have to work, but it was important to him, and he set a great example for me on that. And then my grandmother was still working at the time, and so they were kind enough to take us in and took great care of us, and never went hungry. And it was funny. He was old Army, so it was yes sir, no sir, how high sir. I mean, he lit me up every single day. Never laid a hand on me, but just chewed me up one side and down the other. And so that's kind of where I got some of the resiliency and the mental toughness of I can deal with that and take the constructive criticism and think, okay, I could have done a better job on that. Yes,
this new generation doesn't call it.
Oh no, goodness no, they fold like a deck chair. And so,
in the dark, nobody's watching. This is your grind every day. I know I was next door, right? I'm listening to you making calls. There's things that you're doing in your business that it's not, I have to do this.
It's got to be the calls. I mean, you got to pick up the phone and make the calls. I think that's the number one thing. Too many people want to text and email and hide behind that, and they're so afraid they're going to hear a no that they're paralyzed. And what I learned from a book that I read, I'm a big reader, and it was Never Split the Difference. This guy's
the interrogator book.
He's a hostage negotiator.
Yes, hostage negotiator.
And fascinating stories that he weaves in with business and things like that. And one of the things he said in that book was all the yeses don't mean anything until you get a no. And so, oh, yeah, I love you. Oh, I give out your card all the time. Oh, you're the best. Well, what about today? Well, no, I don't know about today. Okay, now we know something's up. And that goes back to sales 101. Isolate the objection, overcome the objection.
Right.
But if you don't isolate the objection, then you're just dead in the water.
Right.
We're tossing cards at each other. And then 6 months later, it's, oh, man, I owe you a deal. I'm sorry. I should have followed. It's very lame.
I remember when you told me to be the mayor of the city.
Right.
First of all, you changed my dress code. told me how to dress better. You need to be the first person with a suit on and the last person with a suit on. And so I took that to heart and went out and bought a couple suits.
Right.
And then I remember you sent me to Mark Harris, and Mark's conversation was, Pat, I think you're going to do great, but you need to record yourself. You should listen to how you sound. And at the time, I didn't realize, because I'm born and raised from Mississippi.
Right.
So I didn't realize I had such a thick accent.
Right.
And so at that moment, that was I had to start working on my, orator voice,
Right.
whatever you want to call it.
Your radio voice, your podcasting voice.
My podcasting voice or whatever, And so that started waking me up. I mean, I had coaches, I had guys that actually cared about it and said, Pat, you got to do this. You got to change this. You got to upgrade this. And another one was because I think I went out to a networking event. I thought I was bragging. I got like 36 cards or something like that.
Right.
And he was like, okay, well, who is this guy? I don't remember. Well, who's that guy? All right, be more intentional. And I'd rather you come back with 5 cards and know everything about them instead of 36 cards. And that is when I started really going into networking groups and places, wherever I'm going. The goal is what you said earlier. I'm trying to find common ground. If I can find some ground to build on, then I know we can do something. Yeah. But if I can't find ground we can build on, just throw the card away.
Not a good fit.
It's not a good fit.
Where people get hung up is they have that experience and somebody shuts them down or says no or I'm good or whatever, and they just get paralyzed and they're despondent for a week and you lose any momentum that you might have had. And the trick is dusting yourself off, getting back up, and doing it again and again and again. You get better at it over time, and you'll see the results.
Recently, because you were a part of another coaching company.
Yes.
And now you're creating a coaching company.
Yes, we're super excited about it. The URL is gobegreat.com.
Gobegreat.com.
We went and bought that from a dentist that wasn't using it. And so that was
All right.
kind of lucked into that. It's B Coaching and Consulting.
Okay.
And at the moment, it's realtors and lenders.
Okay.
As we grow, we want to expand it to anybody in sales.
Okay.
And because there's other people can help people.
Right.
And we're super transparent about the numbers people put up. So we're not gonna pretend like somebody's bigger than they are.
Okay.
Because even my sister, who doesn't sell anymore, can still help somebody build their team, set up their office. She could coach them on that. And as long as we don't lie and say, oh, my sister, she's a $20 million producer. I say, my sister doesn't practice. However, she's a CPA and she's done this and she's done that. And they go, oh, okay, I want to hang out with her.
Okay.
And so we're kind of like a dating app. So you're swiping through and thinking, oh, I like this guy, family man, my age, 3 kids, and super credentials. And people are going to match up like that.
What are some? I know they can find you at their coaching, right? What are you doing for them to help them grow their business specifically? Because I know when we went through the core coaching.
Oh yeah.
And I was blessed to get part of core coaching just because you were one of the main core coaches. And so I remember you taking us to Dallas, and I mean the experience of being a part of all that. But when it came back to getting back to San Antonio and filling out that greatness tracker and talking to this many people and breaking breads and having face-to-faces and that is a grind.
It is.
Is that accountability grind something that y'all incorporate currently with?
Well, part of it's understanding what the customer wants or what our coaching student wants. Because there's people that are happy selling 2 houses a month, and now when you make $10,000 a sale, in San Antonio instead of $1,800.
Right.
You don't have to be a volume junkie to make a good living in San Antonio. But understanding, what they want to accomplish, what their goals are, what they're willing to pour into it, because people have to take kids and parents and spouses, and there's so many moving parts in that process. So going through the discernment and the discovery phase to get a feel for that. And I've had people say, well, I want to be $100 million agent. I said, great. Here's what that looks like. It looks like you push $100,000 out on the table every single day. You've got a 12-person staff. I don't want that. Okay, cool. What do you want? Well, I want to make 250. Great. I'll help you make 250. I had a ridiculous dream of getting to that level, but I didn't think it'd actually happen.
Because you became one of the top realtors in the nation.
We've been very blessed.
I remember we had a system, and that system was called Doctor Nurse.
Yep.
So we had 5 doctors, 5 main realtors who were out there selling, and then each doctor had 2 nurses,
right?
A buyer nurse and a seller nurse, right? And I was commercial with on the side. But where did that come from? Did you create that? Was that a system?
No. I like anything else that has impacted my life. I ripped off and duplicated from somebody else. And one of my coaches said, "You think about this. If you go to the doctor, they don't weigh you. They don't punch your parking ticket. They walk in and say, okay, look at your stuff. Talk. If they're really good, they talk to you for 2 or 3 minutes. If not, they talk to you for 30 seconds, and they go back out. And the nurse does all the heavy lifting.
Right.
And so the leverage that comes with that, with having people underwrite and process my files and make me look better than I am, keep all the promises I make, so I can go out and do what I'm good at, and that's listing appointments,
right,
and networking, with
shaking hands and kissing babies.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I always say I didn't have a mentor until I met you, and I didn't realize I needed one until I had met you. Well, and so now I chase finding people that can pour into my life. We actually have an event coming up today. It's going to be Cigars, Wealth, and Whiskey. I have one of my mentors, or the mentor for me, that's in the financial service industry.
Oh, nice.
His name is Matt Zapala. And so, but had I not gone through your system first, I wouldn't even, because I saw what mentorship could do. I saw what it did for you, and then how you turned around and helped us learn the business from a different angle. Because if you only think about sales as a transactional thing, you're never really digging deep enough to build enough relationships that bring rewards back. Because your thing was, if you build the right relationships, you'll just have all this business coming back to you.
Right.
But if you're just transactional, you'll do that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that's so much harder.
Or you won't last very long.
Right.
If that's all it is to you, it's going to be really difficult to make a really good living, a sustainable deal. And there's a point where, you can do, and we all know these people that sell 1 or 2 houses a month, and they get by on their personality.
Right.
They are hair on fire, running around, voicemail's always full, kids are screaming in the back of the car when you call them, but people like them. They're super likable people, and they can sell 1 or 2 houses a month in their sleep. Mm-hmm. But to get to the next level, if that's what you want, you got to have systems and processes and checklists.
Right.
That'll get you that 3, 4, 5 without plowing yourself into the ground. And then if you want to get to the next level, it's all about leverage. And leverage comes from growing your team, scaling your team to do the things to get you out of, we used to say it was
the mundane.
Yeah, well, and it's not just, salespeople make $250 an hour. They should, right? All right, and staffers make, $20, $25 an hour. Mm. So if you end up doing staff work, you're paying yourself $25 an hour. If you do sales work, you're paying yourself $250 an hour.
Right.
And that's a big difference. And so understanding that and believing in it was a huge jump for me. And taking that risk of, I'm going to hire this person, I hope I can pay them.
Right.
And that's scary for a lot. It's very daunting for a lot of people. So what I'll tell my coaching students is put $10,000 in a sinking fund, and that you can cover their salary for 3 months. And if they're impactful and growing your business, then you're not going to have any problems. Right. But they're so afraid that fear of that leap of faith is tough.
I remember also, because we had these folders and the way that we had to run the system, and you were telling me there was a helicopter. I think it was a helicopter pilot or maybe a air pilot.
Airline pilot, yeah.
That told you that even though I've done this years, I still have a checklist, and that's kind of where they convinced you or inspired you to make sure that no matter if you've done this 1,000 times, you're still going to work this checklist.
There was a lady who was a big hitter up in Dallas, and I went to a seminar, and she was one of the speakers, and she's very humble, but she put up monster numbers back in the day. And she said her husband she was headed out for an appointment, and her husband looked at her and said, "Where's your checklist?" And she says, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, I've been flying for 25 years, and there is a checklist, and it may be 50 points, it may be 100 points, but I do it every single time otherwise you're going to crash. If you don't check all this stuff, you start taking things for granted or whatever." And I thought that was one of those aha moments of, okay. And I had a builder that I worked with back in the early 80s, and they were very system-driven, checklist process-driven, and with the metaphor I use for them, if one of those guys got hit by a bus, somebody else could sit down at their desk and know exactly where they were in the process, everything was all super organized. And the way they turned their files in, it had to have all the documentation, all the addendums. And I watched that, and then that lesson from the agent up in Dallas, and that's when we started coming up with checklists and processes and things like that to get better, more efficient, and cut down on the breakage and spillage, and deliver at a high level.
So somebody can get by just personality.
Oh, yeah.
But the next level is now you have to have systems and structures. You have to have processes.
Right.
After that, leverage is the way to get to the third level.
Leverage comes from teams and referral partners.
Teams and referral partners.
And have people that can do the stuff underwrite and process your files, get your marketing stuff, get your social media stuff done, all those kinds of things that I'm, A, not good at, and B, doesn't pay very well, and concentrate on referral partners and clients. And so that's been a big part of it.
Did you ever think that did you ever have a goal, like one day I'm going to be a leader, one day I'm going to be a coach, one day I'm going to do this? Was that something that you set out for, or just evolved and woke up one day and realized, man, I'm in there?
It was not a goal as much as it was a fear.
Okay.
For the longest time, I was afraid that a 40-year career in real estate was going to culminate in me working in a mini storage place, and my wife was the bookkeeper, and we were living in the 400 square foot apartment on the property, and I'd drive around in my golf cart in belts and suspenders and sweep out empty garage. that was my fear. And so, but again, being influenced by the right people, being held accountable by a bunch of people that I deeply respect, and they said, you can save money, save more money. And so I no longer have that fear.
Right.
And it was, been very blessed, been very fortunate in some aspects, but it was also just digging in, and a little delayed gratification and a whole lot of savings. And
Right.
it's amazing. We get that flywheel going and it starts compounding, your money starts having babies. That's a good thing.
Because that can create the confidence or at least security and peace of mind, so that you're not, because we're energy, right? When somebody is in a financial slump, somebody is living paycheck to paycheck. Matter of fact, I was reading a book, and I want to say it was in Wallace Waldo's book, but he was saying, like, the energy, like if your priority is, I have to make this money, I have to do this, then poverty is going to actually be chasing you.
Right.
Because it's such an idol in your life. And you have to be able to get away from it being something that you desire or absolutely need, to something that, like, really, because, okay, here's another way they said it, is think of a butterfly effect, right? So if making $1 million would make you happy, then being happy would eventually make you $1 million, because it's what's going to allow you to go out there and just give and do and help, and right.
Well, and it's who you. I mean, that's a great milestone and a very proud accomplishment. But it's more a function of who you have to be that guy. You got to be dialed in on your business. You got to take great care of your people. You got to keep all your promises. You got to take great care of. You can't do that without spousal support. or it's very difficult to do that. And so I've been very blessed in that aspect.
Right.
I don't cut my yard. I don't clean my pool. I don't go to the grocery store. My wife handles all that kind of stuff. My job is to go sell houses and make money.
Right.
And it's very traditional role, not for everybody, but it's served us we're coming up on this Thanksgiving will be 37 years.
Amen.
We've been married.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I'm going on 15 years with my wife currently.
That's a nice milestone right there.
That is a good milestone. So I'm excited about where we're headed. Impact society, and this is where I'm at right now in life, is creating this movement to empower people with financial literacy, with the mindset it's going to take to become successful. Hanging out with great guys like yourself, mentors who literally, first of all, was patient with me, was grace-filled with me when I was failing or wasn't doing what I was supposed to do. It was always that wind to my back, not the shackles to my feet, right? It wasn't somebody I felt weighed down when I got around you. It was, Pat, what can we do better?
Right.
Where can we change? What can we add? How do we change this? And so, again, I say it all the time to people when I'm having conversations about the mentor that changed my life was Dayton Schrader.
Wow. Well, thank you. That's
And
very
so,
kind. That's and what I was able to do for you, I got from 20 or 30 other people. So it wasn't that Dayton's all this smart or anything else. It was I watched other people that I said I deeply respected, I really admired, and I wanted to emulate them and their behavior. And I had some mentors, and I've been in coaching since 1995 in one form or fashion or another.
Okay.
And so I was with By Referral Only back then, and then I got involved with the Core at its inception, and I was with them for 23 years.
Right.
And it was an unbelievable experience. Got to travel all over the country, got to speak at a lot of different places. We had a great time, great friends. You don't normally make friends when you're 40 years old, but I met some of the best people in my life to this day, and it was a phenomenal experience. We had a blast and helped a lot of people.
So, as we get ready to wrap up, some of our listeners are in the younger generation. They're coming up. They're wanting to get successful. They're wanting to, change their life. They're not who they are. They're not who they could potentially be.
Right.
Right. I like Seneca said, "You are the sculptor and the stone or the marble." Right. And I believe that any person could change their life if they had enough direction.
Right.
And they had enough purpose driven. Right. You have to be directional. Yeah, dead fish can float down a river. It takes a live fish to go upstream. And so if you had to give advice to that young 20-year-old, 18-year-old that's getting into business, they're getting ready to start their journey, and it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's not.
But what would you tell that person right now to give them that 2-minute advice? Hey, head down. What would it be?
It's all attitude and mental toughness. It is saying I will be the first one in the office, and I was that guy. I was the guy that made the coffee, and I, not as much anymore, but for the first 15, 20 years of my career,
Right. I
I was first one in, made the coffee, watched, learned, listened, and all that sort of thing. And it's giving it your all. I think if people say I gave it my best effort, that's what it takes. And otherwise, you're just mediocre and you're just bumping along, and it's okay, but it's not going to give you the financial security. And I mean, I appreciate what you're doing for people in that financial literacy and in helping them create their own level of financial security, because Social Security is a joke.
Oh,
and if
absolutely.
you think you're going to live or maintain a lifestyle on
happen.
that, it may not even be there for you, or they're going to means test you out of it. And so you really better have your stuff stacked up, and helping people do that. And the faster they get that going, the better off they're going to be.
Right.
And then they're not held hostage quite as much by, if they don't like their boss, they don't like their job or whatever, but they've got money to live on for a little while. They're not subject to all that. But you do have to surrender. You got to surrender to a boss, got to surrender to a financial. If you're paying somebody to be your financial planner and guide you, then you got to do what they say, or find somebody else. And so I think that's where you're making a huge impact. And I don't mean to no play on words, but I mean that could change a lot of lives.
Impact. That's what we're doing. Jim Rohn, one of my favorite quotes by Jim Rohn, said, "Chase $1 million not to get the $1 million, but chase the $1 million to become the man it took to get it."
That's what I said earlier. That's the person you have to become.
Right.
And now I'm not exactly the best physical specimen, but beyond after that,
Right.
I mean, it's hard to do if you have a bad marriage.
Right.
It's hard to do if you don't have good mentorship and things like that.
Don't have good principles.
Yeah, good principles and values and integrity
Right.
and work ethic, and you just got to be. And it's doable. I mean, if I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, it is achievable. It is really the American dream, and it's gone beyond my wildest dreams.
Right.
And you got to get up and get after it every day because nothing's promised.
I tried to beat him a couple times in the coffee making. Wasn't consistent enough at the time. But of course, it's always a pleasure of mine to be just in your presence, hearing your voice, learning from you, and I appreciate your time for coming on the podcast to drop some, game for everybody, some wisdom for everybody, right?
Well, I'm very, very flattered that you called, and I take your call immediately when your name pops up on my phone. And I've always admired your commitment to your family and your work ethic and determination, and you're always trying to get better. You're always working on some aspect of your life, and I think that's obviously served you well and will continue to serve you well for the next 20 or 30 or 40 years or how long you're blessed.
Well, that's our time on this episode. I hope you guys lock into what we're doing. Get on our Patreon. Check us out on social media at Humble Affluence. Do you have a social media that you want to shout out or?
Well, the GoBeGreat.com is where our coaching platform is, and then I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. You Google my name, it'll pop up. And
Dayton Schrader.
And we're on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff, which I know nothing about, but it just gets done for me.
Gotcha.
And they do a great job. And so
Shout out to the
that's
team.
just what we got to do in this day and age. It's a whole new ball game.
It is. Well, again, I appreciate it. You guys tap in. Y'all want to learn more? This is what we do with Impact Society. Each one reach one, each one teach one. This is Impact Society.